All right, hello everyone. So this is going to be a review of the final project, and I want to offer this to everyone as a way of just making sure that we're clear on all the details for this project, because it's the last project. And if I'm correct, I want to say it's worth almost a third of the grade. Yeah, it is. It's worth 28% of the grade. So important. So to start with, I just want to remind everyone that this assignment, really important. It's a real wrap-up assignment. Please consider that. Make sure that you are addressing each part and including everything in this assignment, clearly, because it's worth so much, really can carry everyone into up considerably. So I especially want to mention this to anyone who's in the sort of 86, 87, 88, 9 range, or anybody who's in the sort of 76, 77, 78, 79 range, to really pay attention. This really makes a difference. And of course, wherever you are, remember, doing well on this carries you up, but doing poorly on this can really, really affect your grade. So be sure to attend with great care for that. Okay, so this assignment is fairly straightforward, and in a lot of ways, it wraps us up into what we've done and where we're going next with bringing everything together, especially how we started with the interview, how we talked about all of the influences on consumer behavior, both internal and external, and also what we're learning about how to apply this into marketing management, specifically how to think about asking questions, how to consider the right kind of research that we need to sort of make those strategic marketing decisions. So one of the things that we have to know is that, or one of the things that we especially have learned, is that research is expensive, very, very, very expensive. To commission any kind of research, you have to engage a very serious research firm. Almost no one does that kind of research in-house. And because of that, there's often lots of preliminary research which can go on in-house for a lot of the brands. And so for this assignment, everyone's going to take on a role, and you're going to be in the position of conducting some exploratory research. And in the end of the project, you'll draw a conclusion on whether you need to hire an expensive outside research consumer behavior research firm or to take it to the next level. So this all begins by choosing a brand. Now, the assignment says I'll assign one, but as everyone has noted, I put a discussion board up about 2 weeks ago, and I think almost everyone has responded. If you have not, please be sure to go to that board and just note the brand and the product that you want to do, and so that nobody will be working on the exact same brand product. So for example, the Apple iPhone is taken and the Apple iMac computers are taken, but no one's done the iPad. So just be sure to reach out. Again, remember to note the brand that you want to focus on and also the particular product, right? Remember, brands and products are not the same thing. Brands have huge product lines. So for example, if you were going to look at Nike, what part? Nike Golf, are you going to look at their hiking gear, stuff like that. So reach out, everyone, and let me know. Okay, so what else are we going to be working on here? In terms of the task, I just want to go over the larger project, and then I want to get back. I want to go into the nitty-gritty for each section and what goes on in each slide. So overall, the task is to put together a presentation in the form of a PowerPoint slideshow. That's going to have 5 sections. The first section is going to be background. You'll present introductory information about the brand. you'll discuss its targeting. Section 2, you're going to talk about the relevant consumer influences for that brand and that particular target. You're going to choose 3 that you think are important. Again, we've covered a number of internal influences and external influences. We'll go into all of these in more detail in a minute. Once you have chosen the relevant influences and explained why, you're going to create a survey for that particular brand based with that target and those particular influences. And for each of the 3 influences, you're going to come up with 6 closed-end questions. So this also gets us back into what we were learning about research and about asking questions and closing questions. And those, and not only are you going to offer each 6 closed questions at least for each of those factors, but you'll also explain why you want to do each one of those questions. Once you've done that, section 4, you'll actually present the survey, you'll develop it, and you can just attach it onto one of the slides. And then you will present the results, explain how you conducted the survey, and then present the results of the survey. And in section 5, you'll present your conclusions. You'll analyze the survey and you'll discuss whether you think indeed there should be a larger research project. Okay, that's the basic outline. Now I want to go through every single one of those sections and just talk about what belongs on what slides. And what I've done is I've taken the outline here and I've blown it out so that you know exactly which slide, what information goes on which slide. Now, I'll remember to include this PowerPoint with when I send the link for the recording, and that way everyone will also have this as a sort of outline. Okay, so cover slide is going to be slide 1, name, professor, brand. Section 1. Section 1, part A is going to be the introduction. This is when you're going to just let us know the brand you're covering. No need for history. No need, don't get into the brand's history. All we need is its current marketing in the form of its current marketing mix. So you can introduce on slide 2, you should just talk about what the product is. What is it in its forms? So, you know, if you were going to, again, do the iPhone, you might talk about, you know, this is the product. It's in, you know, whatever number they're up to, 12. It has this kind of camera. It has this kind of signaling. So you're going to go into all the product attributes. Slide 3, talk about its current pricing. Slide 4, talk about its current distribution. Where is it available for sale? And slide 5, talk about its current marketing communication. What's going on with its advertising? Where do we see this advertising? What form does it take? Here, focus on where the advertising is being placed. And less about the messaging of the ads, though certainly that can be part of it. Okay, good background. Now, part B of section 1 is to talk about the targeting. So this is going to be slides 6 through 9, and this is going to tie into everything that we've talked about in terms of segmentation and targeting. So do some research and find out who is this, the product that you're working on, who is it targeted at? On slide 6, present those demographics. Please be sure in all of these cases, when you're talking about product, when you're talking about all this background information, be sure that you're citing your sources. Same thing here with your demographics. Wherever you got that research from, there's lots of good access to statistics about stuff like that in the library. Then talk about, on slide 7, who's the target in terms of geographics, psychographics, any behavioral-based segment variables, label them by base, right? So put all the geographic under, the psychographics under their heading, behavioral under their heading. Then on slide 8, talk about decision-making aspects. This is very important. Really consider the target and go through that consumer decision-making process, right? Working through problem recognition, information search, alternative evaluation, purchase choice, and outcomes, okay? And so just talk about that, you know, where in the consumer process does there seem to be an issue? Again, do some research on this. Remember, this shouldn't just come out of you and some of your own perspective. Remember, in marketing, the first rule is to know your target audience, and the second rule is to never use yourself as the target audience, okay? So be sure that you're basing that in your research. And then for slide 9, identify one segment that you will discuss as a target market segmentation variable discussed. So here, you really want to focus in on what you think is the most important segment to consider as you develop your project, right? So is this the type of product that really we need to be thinking about psychographics, behavioral segmentation, geographic segmentation, demographic segmentation? Identify which one you think is particularly relevant, explain why, and again, offer your support for that. All right, section 1, A and B. So important to remember 2 parts to that. That's part of the great criteria, which we'll talk about in a minute. So section 2 has you considering, now that you've presented the product and brand you're working on, presented its targeting, to consider the consumer influences. So in this part of your project, well, there we go. What you want to do is focus in on 3 influences that you think are particularly important. You'll note this is very similar to what you did with your interview for the first project, first assignment. And in addition to identifying which influence you believe is relevant, be sure that you explain why you believe each influence is relevant, okay? So each consumer influence should be on its own slide. So for, you know, influence number 1, you're going to say, I'm going to use this influence, and this is why I believe it's relevant. Be sure to cite your sources here. In terms of influences, you're going to choose 3 influences. They can be any 3 influences you believe are particularly relevant given that particular brand product and that particular target audience and the kind of segmentation that you think is relevant. Remember, we've gone over a number of internal influences this term, including attitudes, perception, learning, memory, and consumer information processing, motivation, emotion, personality. Some of the external influences we've talked about include family and culture, class and reference groups, situations and generations. So just be sure that the 3 you use are particularly relevant. And on each slide, be sure that you are offering substantial rationale why that is relevant. Okay. With the background established in section 1, the target, the marketing, the target, and the influences that you think are relevant and that will be the focus. In section 3, we really need to dive into the project in terms of the marketing strategy that you think is relevant. So for those 3 in this section, what you're going to do is start developing your instrument. You're going to start developing your survey. Now, what's very important to note here is that there's going to be considerable detail as you develop this survey, and you're going to include the survey as part of the grade. So I want everyone to think very carefully about this section and to approach it with great care. For each of the 3 influences, you're going to come up with at minimum 6 questions, 6 closed questions, and those questions are going to be relevant to the brand and relevant to the factor that you're looking at, okay? Remember that they're closed-end questions, and for each question, you're going to have to offer an explanation of why is that question relevant, right? So you're going to state the question, and then underneath it have a bullet point explaining your reasoning. So you're going to organize this each question, and remember that as you create questions on a survey, you want to avoid using marketing terms. Consumers don't know what that means. So if you're looking to get to perception, you can't ask a consumer, what are your perceptions of the brand? And remember that those 6 questions that you're developing for each one of the influences, those questions don't include any of your qualifying questions, right? Because in addition to asking questions about the 3 influences, of course, you're also going to have in your survey qualifying questions asking about people's basic demographic background, right? So we can attach to it. So we need to know not only their name, we need to know where do they live, what are their ages, what's their education, what's their income, and all that kind of background, demographic and otherwise. Don't include that in that 18 question total. So for section 6, what we're going to have is the first question set, right, which is based on influence number 1. That should be about 2 slides. Slide 13 and 14. Remember, state the question, give your reasoning, and organize those together. Avoid questions using marketing terms, and qualifying questions don't count. So question set number 1 based on influence number 1, that's going to be slide 13 and 14. Question set number 2 based on influence number 2 is going to be slide 15 and 16. Question set 3 based on influence number 3 is going to be slide 17 and 18. If you need more slides, take them, though you should be able to fit it in within that framework. Now, as you think about the questions you're going to ask here in relation to each one of those influences, remember that you can consider asking a lot of questions based on your research, and you can ask questions related, perhaps it's about perception, and you might ask questions about the brand's advertising and have they seen it. You could ask questions related to the consumer decision process. Remember to be specific about which stage. You can ask about the influence of any public relation, sponsorship, cross-promotion, whether you can ask questions about distribution, right? Did you see it on the shelves? Where on the shelves? Did you see it at the store? Ask about different media. You can ask questions about pricing, sales activity, customer service, packaging, the brand's name, image, personality, figures, celebrity endorsers. So there are lots of questions you can ask, again, as you get into understanding the brand, the product, its current marketing, the kind of targeting that's going to happen, the kind of influence, influences you believe are relevant, the 3, and the segment that you want to target. You'll come to an understanding about what areas of marketing strategy you want to ask about related to each one of those influences for your question set, okay? Please remember not only to ask the question, but remember to offer your reasoning for each question. All right, that is section 3. Section 4, now that you've presented all of your questions, you have to develop the actual survey instrument. So remember, for the survey instrument, you should have at least 18 closed-end questions, 6 for each of the factors. Add 2 open-ended questions. So in total, at minimum, the survey instrument is going to have those 20 questions that you're going to ask. That doesn't include, again, the background demographic information that you're going to ask about each participant. Do remember that closed-end questions should be numerically scaled horizontally, and that the choices should be left from right. There's a wonderful example there. So remember to phrase it correctly. You know, so the taste of Coca-Cola is important when choosing this brand to purchase. Very likely to not very likely. So always left to right, highest to lowest. And you don't want to ask, do you think the Coca-Cola is important when choosing this brand? You shouldn't ask, do you think taste is important for when you're choosing Coca-Cola as a brand? You want to phrase it as a statement and then ask if they agree or don't agree. So that's going to be slide 19 is going to be your survey instrument, slide 20. And again, you're not going to be able to post the entire thing. So you can actually attach it as an image or something like that for slide 19. Slide 20, you're going to talk about the survey, the administration of the survey, right? So you're going to then administer the survey to at least 10 people. That's part of the reason that it's good that it's going to be a closed-end survey. Use something like SurveyMonkey, lots of online free survey services. You know, send it to people, have them quickly fill it out. And what's great about using some of those survey services is that, you know, the free cheap version will put together a bunch of charts from the results for you as well. So here, you know, remember to administer that to 10 respondents. And in slide 20, talk about your responses, explain how you implemented the survey instrument, whether it was in person, internet, social media. Also talk about how you recruited your subjects. Did you offer an incentive? Were there difficulties? What was the response rate? All that kind of information on slide 20. All right, so we've got our background. We've created, we rationalized the questions in section 3. We delivered it and created it and implemented in section 4, explaining your implementation. Section 5 is to report on your findings and conclusions. So in this section, you're going to analyze your findings, including a table, and discuss what did you discover. So specifically, slide 21, include the results from the table, from the data. This should be in a table form, okay? So at minimum, there's a table required. It's just, you know, very simple to put together a table and just say, you know, these were the results. And based on that, slide 22, based on that table, the results of the table, offer your opinion if there needs to be a larger study conducted or not, and identify and recommend which type of research. Now, when you're doing this recommendation, be sure that it speaks to the results from slide 21, okay? So it isn't just we should or shouldn't do it. You should be pointing to specific data points in the table, okay? And then that should be slide 22, probably 22 and 23, because your recommendation isn't just a yes or no. It should have multiple bullet points that cite, you know, question this, said this, and is letting us know this. So it will have a number of bullet points covering what you believe are important data points to consider for a decision like that. And of course, let your final slide, slide 23 or 24, be your references. All right. Beyond that, a few points about format. Remember that this has to be in PowerPoint. I cannot open any other formats, so please be sure that you submit a PowerPoint. Make sure that it's no fewer than 20 slides. I think it's impossible to do this project without 20 slides. The instructions say it should be in 18-point New Times Roman. I'm flexible in this, of course, but you know, remember, I'm reading for content. That's the most important part. Make sure you have all the content in there. You know, be sure that you are citing and referencing all of your sources. You know, again, use APA, MLA, Chicago style, endnotes, footnotes, whatever works, as long as you're citing and referencing. Remember, because we're talking about so many different parts of the class, you should have an extensive citation and reference. You should have lots of citations and references. This is a big project, and there are lots of details for it. Of course, it's all set out, so everything should work quite nicely, that it runs clearly and logically for the reader. Post it to the assignment folder no later than midnight. Please remember that the assignment folder closes at midnight on Tuesday, okay? Once that ends, the term has ended and no late work is being accepted. Be sure that you use required headlines. Oh, on that point, if for any reason you're having a problem, if you're delayed, please reach out. Please do not wait if you know you're going to have an issue, okay? Beyond that, make sure citations are in the body and a reference section at the end. Make sure you have that, that reference slide, that cover slide. Keep the analysis in the third person, so you're not using I, me, we. Remember, never use yourself as the research subject. And also, I just want to encourage everyone, please be sure that this is a very original work. Remember that Turnitin, everything is attached to Turnitin. So every project that you've done at the university is already in Turnitin. So if you submit something similar, it's just going to show up as similar. So please don't use parts from other projects. Make sure that this is not based on, you know, you use the same brand and same product, for example, in the Principles of Marketing in 350, and just plug in all that. So the projects are different, and if you're having any problems with that, just reach out. Remember, I'm a partner in your learning, and I'm here to help. No question is too small. You don't just have me by email. Remember, I'm a real person, so pick up the phone if you need to speak to me. Finally, I just want to end considering the grade criteria, okay? Section 1A, background, 10 points. Section 1B, background, 10 points. So that first 10 points is for the marketing background. That second 10 points is for the targeting background. Then we have section 2, where you talk about all the consumer influences, identify and analyze the 3 influences. Remember the rationale for those. See the points, that's going to be 20 points there. Section 4, where you are putting together your questionnaire and where you are justifying all those 6 questions for each one of those influences. That's going to be worth 20 points. Section 4, where you present your survey instrument and administer it, 10 points. And section 5, where you analyze your findings and offer your conclusion, is 15 points. Finally, following the format, spelling, citations, references, all of that is going to be the final 15 points. let me leave it there. And now I just want to open to questions that are here. On that point, for those of you, since the vast majority of everyone is going to be watching this via the link that I'm gonna, when I load it up on YouTube. Again, if you have questions, please remember I'm here to help everyone. So, you know, and since the project's due in only a few days, remember that you also can call me. I'm readily available to you. So remember, no question is too small, and you are never, ever bothering me, okay? All right, any questions here with anyone? All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I look forward to going over all of these projects. It's a very detailed project. So again, everyone, please take great care in addressing every single part. Remember that this project is worth 28% of the grade, so it's almost a third of the grade. So please be sure to attend to it with care and reach out if you have any questions. Always glad to help. Thank you, everyone, and I look forward to reading your projects. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye for now.